A woman walks into a bank carrying a worn fabric bag, just wanting to open an account. But the teller throws her ID on the floor. What no one knew is that in 30 minutes, they'd be calling her chairwoman. Monday morning, the sky over Chicago was painted a dull gray, as if the city itself was warning people not to expect too much from the day. But the woman who walked into the Sterling Federal Bank branch in the Loop carried no expectations. Only a small fabric bag and a silence shaped by years of experience. Elena Carter, 46, wore a simple white business dress with a black cardigan draped over her shoulders. Her brown hair was tied back neatly. No makeup, no flashy jewelry. She looked like a tired office worker who had just stepped off the subway. Practical, invisible, and seemingly unworthy of notice. The bank lobby was quiet enough to hear the faint click of heels against the polished granite floor. A receptionist glanced briefly at the worn fabric tote Elena carried, then offered a professional smile. "Good morning, ma'am. How may I assist you?" "I'd like to open a business account," Elena said softly. "Of course. Please proceed to counter 4. At counter 4 sat Andrew Lowell, mid-30s, crisp white shirt without a single crease, hair slicked with precision, sipping from a matte black mug bearing the bank's logo. He didn't look up as Elena approached. "Name?" he asked curtly, still staring at the screen. "Elena Carter." Andrew raised an eyebrow as he finally looked at her. His eyes scanned the cheap digital watch on her wrist, then her worn flats. The corner of his mouth curled in that familiar smile. Not quite disdain, but far from respect. "Business account," Andrew repeated, almost laughing. "Do you know what the minimum deposit is?" "I do," Elena replied evenly. She opened her bag and pulled out a small folder, along with her ID. Andrew took it, but instead of placing it carefully on the desk as procedure dictated, he let his fingers go slack, allowing the ID to slip from the edge of the counter and drop to the floor with a sharp click. No one picked it up. Elena bent down, unhurried, unshaken. She picked up her ID like it was part of a ritual she had practiced many times. A familiar choreography in a world that often demanded dignity be retrieved from the floor. A woman's voice rang out behind her. Branch manager Dana Caldwell stepped in with a sharp look and deep red heels. "Is there an issue here, Andrew?" "Not really. She's trying to open a business account. Probably meant to go downstairs." Andrew emphasized business, like it was a joke. Dana turned to Elena with a forced smile. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but to open that kind of account, we typically require a financial partner reference or clear credit history. Are you just starting out?" "No, I have the full documentation." Elena began to open her folder, but Dana subtly raised her hand to stop her. "Perhaps you'd be better served at our community banking program on the lower level. They specialize in assisting newer clients." Elena said nothing. She nodded once, as if filing the words away. Then she walked to a seat in the corner of the room, sat down, opened a small brown notebook, and began writing in neat, deliberate strokes. 10 minutes later, she reached for her phone. Calm, unhurried. Her voice was low, but clear. "Proceed as planned. I'm here now." The Sterling Federal branch was so quiet it seemed the air itself had been filtered through elite glass, designed only for those who knew how to belong in this polished world. Elena sat in the corner, hands resting on her notebook, but her eyes scanned the room as if reading people, not paper. She saw an elderly woman in reading glasses, draped in a beige cashmere coat, repeatedly glancing at her with visible discomfort. The woman clutched her Hermes handbag tightly, her stare cold, as if Elena were a blot of ink staining her pristine financial space. Nearby, a fashionable young couple, the man in a shiny gray suit, were reviewing a printed investment portfolio. When Elena's eyes accidentally met theirs, they quickly turned away, pretending not to see. Andrew, meanwhile, after the ID incident, remained at his desk, pretending to be busy. But Elena saw him. His eyes darted toward her every few minutes, then back to his screen, searching for something. Perhaps her file, or perhaps the reason to dismiss her altogether. A young female employee whispered to the colleague beside her. "Who is she? Doesn't look like the business type at all. Lost, maybe. Or just trying her luck," the other replied with a quiet chuckle. Elena remained still, unbothered. Her pen kept moving, recording. She noted, 10:17 a.m., still not assisted while a male client offered coffee and taken to private room. 10:23 a.m., Red-haired woman immediately attended to ahead of me. Each entry was more than a timestamp. It was living proof of a system that discriminated quietly, but efficiently. At the front, the large TV screen played financial news, just another scrolling ticker under Bloomberg's talking heads. But at that precise moment, a breaking line appeared that made the entire room pause for half a breath. Carter Legacy Group finalizes acquisition of Sterling Federal Bank. Terms undisclosed. A few clients looked up. A middle-aged man with glasses lowered his phone and whispered, "Carter Legacy bought Sterling? That's new." Andrew saw it too. His eyes narrowed slightly. His fingers froze above the keyboard. Then he shrugged and muttered, "Probably a top-level deal." Elena said nothing. She closed her notebook and slipped it back into her fabric bag. There was now a shift in the air, faint but present, as if a storm was quietly gathering its clouds. 10 minutes had passed since the news ticker flashed across the screen. No one mentioned it. No one connected the headline to the quiet woman still seated in the corner. Elena Carter, with her worn fabric bag and small notebook, remained invisible in their eyes. Until she stood up. No one paid much attention, until she took out her phone. Her voice wasn't loud, but it was firm. "Martin, I've seen the service culture here firsthand. Prepare the boardroom. We need an emergency executive meeting in the next 15 minutes. The moment she said Martin, time paused. A nearby teller froze mid-step. Andrew Lowell's typing slowed. A male customer furrowed his brow, not out of curiosity, but because he recognized the name. Martin Graves, CEO of the entire Sterling Federal System. Elena ended the call, calmly sat back down. But not even 2 minutes later, the grand glass doors of the lobby swung open with purpose. Polished leather shoes echoed against the granite. Martin Graves entered, followed by his assistant and 2 regional directors. His face was tense but composed. He didn't glance around, didn't ask reception, didn't acknowledge any staff. He walked straight to the woman with the fabric bag, stopped, and bowed his head slightly. "Chairwoman Carter, on behalf of the entire institution, I offer my sincerest apologies for the unacceptable treatment you've received." A stunned silence swept the entire lobby. Andrew was frozen in place. Dana Caldwell stood rigid, her lips trembling. Elena rose to her feet. Her eyes scanned the faces around her, not with anger or mockery, but with a quiet weight that made people lower their gaze. "I don't need apologies. I need truth. And change." Martin nodded. "Eyes solemn. We'll convene in 10 minutes. You may request the presence of any involved personnel." Elena glanced toward counter 4. "I want the teller named Andrew and his direct supervisor in the room, along with the full branch executive team." A receptionist swallowed hard. Andrew had nowhere left to hide. 7th floor boardroom, typically reserved for high-level shareholder meetings, now hosted an emergency session. Elena Carter entered first, still in her white dress, still carrying that fabric bag. But this time, every eye followed her. No one dared underestimate her. Martin Graves sat across from her, fingers laced, back straight. The full branch executive team, manager Dana Caldwell, and teller Andrew Lowell were present. No more coffee cups, no more whispers, just thick, suffocating tension, like fog before a storm. Elena placed a slim folder and her familiar brown notebook onto the table. She began calmly, "I'm not here for apologies. I'm here to evaluate. To evaluate how you define what you call premium customer service." No one responded. "This is the 4th bank I've assessed in the last 6 months. At each one, I walked in like an ordinary woman. No title, no referral, just to see whether I'd be treated like a human being." She opened the notebook and read aloud. 10:17 a.m. Andrew Lowell drops customer's ID. No apology, no retrieval. 10:23 a.m. Dana Caldwell dismisses the file without reviewing its contents. 10:30 a.m. Other clients offered coffee and taken to VIP rooms. I wasn't even asked a question. She paused. Her eyes scanned each face. "Is that what you call standards? Or is that the automatic bias when you see a woman not wearing a Rolex?" Andrew lowered his head. Dana clenched her hands in her lap. Martin spoke. "We take full responsibility, Chairwoman Carter. You may order any disciplinary action you deem necessary." Elena shook her head slowly. "I didn't come to fire people. I came to create change. And sometimes, real change begins when you're forced to look in the mirror." She turned to Andrew. Who did you think I was when I walked in? Andrew swallowed. I I didn't know. I just assumed you weren't wealthy enough. Elena interrupted, not angry, just pointed. Not the right profile, Andrew admitted, voice barely audible. Elena turned to Dana. You, as the manager, should have been the first to ensure all clients were treated fairly. Instead, you were the first to motion me out. Dana had no words. Elena closed the notebook. I'll keep this branch under the system, but I will personally oversee the restructuring. Every employee will undergo retraining on bias, empathy, and customer engagement, from reception to upper management. Martin nodded firmly. I support that fully. Elena looked across the room. A brand isn't a logo. It's how you make ordinary people feel the moment they step through your door. 3 months later, Sterling Federal looked different now. Not because of any renovations, but because people treated each other differently. From the receptionist to the security guard, every staff member wore a quiet, genuine warmth. No more judgmental glances, no more whispers about worn backpacks or faded shirts. That morning, Maria Lopez, a 22-year-old young woman, stepped into the bank. She wore a gray t-shirt, simple jeans, hair tied back, and carried a faded fabric backpack. In her hands was a slim folder, a small tech startup proposal printed on basic paper and held together with binder clips. Maria glanced around nervously. This was her first time entering a major bank to open a business account. She had been rejected by 2 other banks before, told she lacked sufficient credit history, and didn't look the part. A receptionist approached her with a gentle smile. Good morning. You're here to open a business account, right? Maria nodded. Yes, but I don't have a lot of documents. Just my plan and some savings. That's okay, the staff replied. Here, we support all dreams, no matter how small the start. Maria felt tears forming. She gripped the straps of her backpack, then followed the staff to the counter. Outside the glass wall, Elena Carter stood watching. She didn't walk in. She simply observed, dressed in a long coat, holding a paper coffee cup in one hand. Her expression was calm. Her eyes shimmered with contentment, not from power, but from seeing a seed she once planted begin to bloom. Maria was seated at a desk. The staff member smiled as she opened her folder. No one asked what she wore. No one cared what brand her bag was. Behind the counter, a new brass plaque had been installed. Here, everyone deserves respect, no matter who they are. Signed beneath it, Elena Carter, reinstated chairwoman, 2025. Elena turned and walked away, blending into the morning crowd. No one recognized that woman as the one who had redefined high-value client at this institution. But perhaps that was the greatest victory of all.